Everybody, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for June 22nd, 2023. It is 6:02 p.m. and so everybody's aware we're recording via WCAT 12, which is being televised. It's our local network. Also streamed live Facebook and being recorded and transmitted via Zoom. So everybody's aware of that. Could I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, first thing on the agenda is a presentation by the town auditor, Mr. James J. Gusti, CPA management letter and fiscal year 2022 financial statements of the town. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Another year.
Almost a year exactly. The 22nd last year, or 23rd last year, one day off. I have copies, like, these here, they're extra copies.
Okay.
Tammy, Don, and Kerry.
Okay.
And here's a copy for you of the
Thank you.
financials and the annual.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes people have their computers, they're trying to follow what I'm saying, you know.
We
it's just
we
so
print
much-
them up, but it's good to have the book
but
too.
This is, you know, so this is the big financial statement report, that's the management letter.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, because we are live streaming and we're going out via social media, please identify who you are before you start talking, so people that don't know who you are out there know what your position is and who you are.
Just put one there.
Oh, yeah, you can give it to.
Yeah.
For Rich.
You'll have one. There is an extra one in there.
Okay.
So, you know, one for those three.
Sorry to interrupt. Derek, did you let everybody into the Zoom room? The meeting?
Nobody's there.
Oh, WCT, he goes in.
Yeah, because it showed up on my screen, waiting for the host to let you in.
Okay. I'm gonna end this one.
Fair, I'll let you know.
Don't go.
Thank you.
Don't go.
Recording.
Are you going into a planning board one?
No, I did whatever the.
It's just the one, right?
This looks like.
I mean, I could sign out and sign back in. But said Selectmen's meeting room, I use meeting ID for the agenda.
You want to go on the agenda?
This is the one. Can you check?
Yeah.
Those now?
Does it tell you what meeting code you're in?
It just said today at 6 o'clock.
So you clicked on the one on the website?
No, I click on the one that, I went into Richard's, account.
Yeah, it says host has another meeting in progress.
Okay, so it's, should this one, see, this one is the one. That's the one.
30, was that 3029?
3009.
Nope, wrong one. This one's 5980.
Let's go to, oops, I can get it from there. What is the easiest
And open
way
my
to get
mouth.
to the calendars?
If you go to the Board of Selectmen.
In the departments? Okay,
Okay, right, scroll down just a little bit, that's right there.
this one?
Yep.
No, I got it from the website, so give it a try.
Okay. Let's see if it's on.
Recording in progress.
Now it's
Yep,
all
there they are. Okay, looks like we're in the right one. Sorry about that, everybody on Zoom. We had some technical difficulties here at Zoom. We figured it out. Thank you to Travis of WCAT 12 for being able to let us know that we were having some issues with it that we didn't know about. The only thing we've done so far is pledge allegiance and let everybody know that social media is gonna be available. And then we introduced a presentation by the town auditor, James J. Gusti, he's a CPA, and he's gonna be discussing the management letter and the fiscal year 2022 financial statements of the town. So that's where we've been so far, so if anybody missed anything, we apologize, but you should be up to date now.
So is it up to me now?
Now it's up to you, sir.
So I just wanted to say that my name is James Justy. I'm a CPA, certified public accountant. I've been auditing the town for quite a few years. And what we do is we do an audit, but it's called a financial statement audit, because there's a big difference between what we do and all the cities and towns in the state get a financial statement audit, and throughout the country, really. It's all in accordance with governmental accounting standards and generally accepted auditing standards and all that. But there are other types of reviews or audits called like internal control or compliance, like the State Department of Revenue is doing one of those, which is very different than what we do. What we do is we look at the financial information in the general ledger accounting system and throughout the town's accounting system, all the internal controls, and we try to determine if the controls are in place that will allow us to give an opinion or say that these financial statements are presented fairly or correctly. And so that's what we do. So there's a big difference between a financial statement audit and a compliance audit. The Department of Revenue, they look at a lot of different things. So like I say, the objective is to review and audit the financial statements, and that's the big 59-page report versus the little 5-page report, which is the management letter. And we render an opinion. So that's something that, we actually say, in our opinion, these financial statements are presented fairly, if that's true. But, it seems like it might be a little simplistic, but if you just turn to the first page, when you flip the page to the table of contents, it's really a very, very good summary. And this is the 59-page report, which is the audited financial statement. And you just flip over to the first page. At the top, it says Town of Warren, Massachusetts, Table of Contents. But, it seemed simplistic, but to me, if somebody really wants to know how to read this report, because it's almost like 60 or 70 pages, just look at this table of contents, because the beginning part says the independent auditor's report, and that's what I was saying, we do an opinion. So that's also called the opinion letter. And the other thing is, this report and the wording throughout here, it's all established by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it's the same throughout Massachusetts and actually throughout the country. So it's very consistent, and a lot of this is required. The wording is required. So the next part, right below, it says management, discussion, and analysis. And it's called a required supplemental information. What it is really just maybe like a 6 or 8 page summary of what's in the 60-page report. That's also required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So just below that, it says basic financial statements. So about 8 or 10 years ago, they changed the whole format of how these financial statements worked. And the basic financial statements created these 2 new ones just below it, where it says government-wide financial statements, the statement of net position, the statement of activities. These are what we call, us accountants call full accrual. Like if you have an accounts receivable of like $1 million, gets fully accrued as if it was collected, even though it hasn't been collected. That's what full accrual means. And the other thing it has that's full accrual is we record the fixed assets, the pension liabilities, the OPEB liabilities, so they're being fully accrued as liabilities on this statement of net position. So that was a tremendously big change in the format that we used to have prior to that 10 years ago. But those 2 reports are in there on page 11 and 12 and page 13. But just below it is what we call the fund financial statements. Now those statements are required by GASB, but they're much more familiar to people, and they're similar to the town accountant's balance sheet that gets sent into the State Department of Revenue where the free cash is certified. So the fund financial statements are the balance sheet and the statement of revenues and expenditures. So those 2 statements I feel are the most important ones. Those are the most easy to understand. So we'll look at those. But this basically just shows you all the reports that are therein. And like I say, I think the balance sheet and the statement of revenues and expenditures, if you want to look at something, those are the best ones to look at, that are easiest to follow, and it's more understandable than those other ones. But down below a little bit, like 2/3 of the way down the page, it says notes to the financial statements, page 23 to 50. So those notes to the financial statements are really, really important. So if you kind of start looking at some of the reports and then you just kind of stop because you're busy, you really want to go down and look at those notes, because they clearly define and explain all the information that's up in the financial reports. And it's really, once you read the whole thing, if you really want to, once you read the whole thing and, just get all the way through it, you'll notice that those notes are really very important. And they're required, there's certain ones that have to be in there. They talk about the debt, they talk about the fixed assets, they talk about pension liabilities and OPEB liability. They talk about everything that's within these reports, and they explain it more to make it more understandable. Then just below that is more required supplemental information. And so, but what I just wanted to point out, if you really kind of want to look at the reports, not most people want to, but some people really do want to understand the report. And this is a good place to sort of look at and go back and forth and try to figure out what's in there. Sometimes people actually do that, and then they actually ask me questions. I can help, but most of the time it's really just kind of overwhelming, because it's very, unless you're an accountant, it's pretty confusing and hard to understand. So that's just something I wanted to say about being able to read the report. And this is, once again, the audited financial statements. So if you just flip over a couple pages to page 1, page 1, at the top it says independent auditor's report. And we also call it the opinion letter, because that's where an auditor will give an opinion whether or not these financial statements are presented fairly. or, you know, they're accurate. So this independent auditor's report, also called the opinion letter, the very top part says report on the audit of the financial statements, and then it says opinions. I mean, I just wanted to point out, I don't think anybody would notice, but the format of this report changed from last year. Last year, the opinion, for like 25 years, the opinion was way down at the bottom. I don't know, somebody must have said, you know, the opinion's the most important thing, why don't we put it right at the top? So I don't think anyone would ever notice, but, except maybe another auditor or somebody, you know, but, so anyhow, it says, in the opinion, it says opinion. So it says, we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities and business-type activities, each major fund and aggregate remaining fund information for the town of Warren and as of and for the year ended June 30th, 22. The next paragraph says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position and the governmental activities of all the funds for the town of Warren for June 30th, 22. So where it says present fairly, I mean, it's kind of strange wording, but it really means that they are correct and they are accurate, and there are no like material misstatements or significant deficiencies or anything like that. So the wording in this is like really critically important. There's like 4 types of reports. If there was something wrong, we'd have to say, you know, they are significantly incorrect or materially incorrect, you know, that kind of stuff. But in this case, this report is a good report. And so the Department of Revenue, the federal government, you know, the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, if it's a single audit act, the Moody's and Standard & Poor's, the rating agencies, they all look at that. It's like critically important. I mean, most of them are fairly, you know, stated fairly correct, you know, presented fairly, but now and then they're not. You know, I've seen them when they weren't. So I just wanted you to know that this report is saying that the financial statements have been presented and prepared correctly. So, like I said, one of the reports on, if you turn to page 14, like I said, 14 and 15, those are the 2 reports that are more understandable than those other ones that I was talking about. And they, once again, they are required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They are in a set format, and accounting rules, you know, regulate what they look like. And even as far as like having a general fund column, having a non-major fund, governmental fund column. So that column, you know, it's required that it looks like that. So what they say is take your special revenue funds and your capital projects funds and trust funds, and you must combine them together and call them a non-major governmental fund. And so we have a breakdown of what's included in there, but for this report, all of those items are included in that column. So under the general fund column, you know, we have assets, which even in the business world, this is like very similar. You have assets, which is cash and accounts receivable, and you have liabilities like employee withholdings payable and things like that. So it's a typical standard balance sheet without many unusual things. But one of the things about a governmental balance sheet is down at the bottom, near the very bottom, it says fund equity and it says fund balances. That is something that's required, once again, by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And they even changed it a few years ago and, you know, changed it so that it has categories of non-spendable, restricted, assigned, and unassigned. So the assigned category are things like your reserve for encumbrances and something where you have reserved for the subsequent year vote. But the unassigned is like, you know, unreserved, unassigned fund balance. But one of the big things that the GASB requires, which, you know, seems kind of odd to me, is that they say in the general fund, we want you to combine the stabilization fund with the general fund and show it as part of the general fund column. This unassigned fund balance of $3,092,092, it's not only to the general fund, you know, unreserved fund balance and almost like free cash, but it also includes the stabilization fund, which, you know, I don't know, they started doing that 5 or 6 years ago, and everyone, you know, because in the accounting records, you have to have it separate. It has to be a stabilization or a special revenue fund, has to be voted a certain way. But they say, for this report, we want you to combine it together. And they actually did it like 3 ways over the last 10 years, and it's like,
It almost makes it seem like we have more unassigned funds
yeah, it
than
does.
we actually do.
Right, that's true.
So,
It really does, you know, so, because 1.3 million is the general fund unassigned,
mhm.
but 1.8 million is the stabilization fund. And so, you know, when Tony and I met with Jim, Tony, he's the new guy, you know, I think you've heard, Tony Roselli, you know. I'm sorry that I, you know, gave in on you guys, but I've been doing it for over 30 years, 30 plus, and, you know, after a while. But we talked to him, you know, and he said, looking at those balances, that's a very favorable, like, fund balance, you know, and he had recommended that he would talk with Jim and possibly maybe use Standard & Poor's instead of Moody's, because they're more for smaller towns. And when you have the chance, and when you want to, he'll help you get a bond rating, you know, from Standard & Poor's. And he said he knows what it'll be, because he does a lot of those. And he said that yours looks really good. You're in good condition, is what it says, you know, what that says right
We've been
there.
working hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Jim's
so-
been doing awesome, and
Yeah.
everybody's been doing their part, so.
So anyhow, that's the balance sheet. So the bottom of this balance sheet, not the very, very bottom row, but like the second row from the bottom, it says total fund equity. So under the general fund column, it says 4,178,787, and then under the non-major column, it says 2,118,533. So one of the generally accepted accounting principles by the American Institute of CPA says, in fund accounting, you know, which is what we're recording all this stuff in the ledger, in fund accounting, that fund balance, fund equity on that row has to agree with the next page. So if you flip to the next page, which is page 15, so that was page 14, page 15. The next page is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. But the very bottom row on this page says fund balance ending. And it's 4 million, 4.1 million, 2.1 million. It's the exact same number that's on the balance sheet. And, you know, so that's part of what we call generally accepted accounting principles and recording things in the ledger. Because if you look at this report, it has all of the revenues by the various categories like property tax, excise tax, etc. Then it has all the expenditures by the functions, general government, public safety, you know, and then even a little further down below the expenditures, there's something called other financing sources and uses where monies are transferred between funds, because it's required in fund accounting that you have transfers between funds in certain cases. But the bottom line here is, the very bottom is fund balance ending, but just above it is fund balance beginning. The row just above that, the third row from the bottom, says excess of revenues and other sources over or under expenditures and other uses. So it shows during the current year in the general fund, you had a favorable result of $402,000. So that just shows that, you know, you're watching your money, your budgeted revenues and expenditures, and you know, being careful about how you spend. So the fund balance went from 3.7 to 4.1 million. And so, you know, that is a favorable, good-looking balance sheet and statement of revenue. So, like I said, Tony looked at it too, and he said that it does look good. And so if you do happen to go for a bond rating, probably Standard & Poor's would be the better one. I think you're gonna get a very good bond rating, you know, if you're gonna be borrowing at some point, you know. So, you know, this is like, I don't know, 60-page report or something like that, and I could spend a lot of time, but I don't think it's necessary. But if you had any other questions on any of this, I most certainly could answer some of those right now.
So my biggest question for you,
Yeah.
did you see anything that's a red flag for you in this at all?
In like the
Budgeting?
whole audit?
Yeah.
Well, you know what, this is the financial part, all right? I'll go to the management letter now, because that's what we do in the management letter. We talk about, this is the actual report, 60 pages, all these numbers and everything, and it's been presented fairly, and the systems in place allow it to be, so the systems are good. But the management letter itself is where we talk about, the condition, the actual condition of the records, and, if there are any material weaknesses, or are there any problems, and so the other small report.
One second. Ray, did you have the materials? I know you're on FinCom now. Is this something that you want to follow with?
I'd be happy to.
Do you have the materials?
No.
Can you give him some, please?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Because he's
so,
just getting on the
FinCom.
FinCom now, and this is particularly interesting.
oh, yeah,
to what
see,
he's
someone's
gonna be doing
interested,
now.
So, like the big report, the 60-page one, that was what I was just kind of talking
Yep.
about. And like I said, in the beginning, that table of contents is a really good summary of how you find what's in
Yep.
there. You're probably pretty good with finances, being on the finance committee, so as you look through it, start there. But the part I'm doing now is, there's always, when you have a financial statement audit, there's always a management letter. In this case, it's only 4 or 5 pages, but when you create a financial statement report, you also create a management letter. And once again, like I said, that report has a lot of standard wording. So this management letter, it's only 4 or 5 pages, and when you do a financial statement audit, we are required to generate a management letter. So it's called a management letter. And once again, like I say, it has standard wording, because this is all dictated by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board and other agencies and all that kind of thing. So if you just look at the first paragraph, it says, "Dear members of the board, in planning and performing our audit of the financial statements of the town of Warren as of and for the year ended June 30th, 22, in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, we considered the town of Warren's internal control over financial reporting," which is what we call internal control, "as a basis for designing our audit procedures for the purpose of expressing the opinion," which is what I was just talking about, the opinion letter. So that's just kind of like standard wording. The next 2 paragraphs sort of just say that like a little bit more. So the 4th paragraph down on this first page of this report says, "We did not consider the following matters to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. However, we just wanted to communicate them to you." So, really that, believe it or not, that little sentence right there gets expanded to be a lot bigger if there are material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And so during our audit, we really have to look at this real carefully and think about it, because, we get a peer review of our work, and if something's not really up to snuff, then, you really have to show it as a significant deficiency or material weakness. But we also have an opinion. This is our opinion. Auditors give an opinion. So in our opinion, you have systems in place that allow you to generate numbers and reconciliations and reports that are good, they are good. And so there are no significant deficiency or material weaknesses or any findings at all. I mean, there are a couple of minor little things that I've mentioned, but so I'll talk about that as I look at this a little more. On this first page, the first comment, like after that 4th paragraph, it says, "Single audit and uniform guidance." So that paragraph says, in any year, the town expends $750,000 in federal funds. The requirements relating to the Single Audit Act will be in effect. The Single Audit Act states that if an entity spends more than $750,000 during a fiscal year, an audit needs to be performed in accordance with all of the standards. And, so I kind of just mentioned that. I was in last year's report too, because that paragraph and the next paragraph and really, 2/3 of the next page are really just talking all about the Federal Single Audit Act. And, you know, when I used to work for the state, we had this guy, Frank Burke was his name, right? He was a big, you know, hulky guy, and he was a really good accountant and auditor, but he didn't really seem to like working too much, you know, but he was very funny. And he goes, "The Single Audit Act." He's like, "Is it really what I think? We only do one audit per year, Single Audit Act?" And he said that so many times that, you know, it was like the big joke. Frank Burke used to say, "The Single Audit Act, we only have to do one audit per year." Because the Department of Revenue used to do audits for towns. They don't do them anymore. I used to work for the Department of Revenue that long ago, where I got hired with 60 other people. And my business partner, Dick Hinkson, and I got hired at the same time. They hired 60 people. That's how we got to know each other. And we used to do audits of cities and towns. Then eventually they stopped doing that, and they just started doing all of the other things, like, you know, the recap sheet, approving the recap sheet, free cash certification, and some of these other things like the internal control review that they're doing. You know, but the Single Audit Act, well, what it really means is there used to be tons and tons and tons of various grants, and what happened was they would be doing audits on all these little grants all over the place, and it was really very, very inefficient. And they were like coming into towns or whatever and just taking forever, coming unannounced and doing things that made it very inefficient. So they came out with this thing called the Single Audit Act. And if you look here, it combines about 7 or 8 official publications and circulars and brings it all into one. And now it's something called the Uniform Guidance. And, you know, so the reason why I put this first page and the next page really is more informational only, so that, you know, everyone like you guys, and then people like, you know, Don and Tammy or whoever else, can just kind of read it, because it's really very, very useful information on what has to be done. Now, for 22, I didn't do a single audit because there wasn't 750,000. It was less than that, because the money was just kind of spent more like in fiscal 23. I think there might be one in 23, right?
I don't think so. I don't think
Maybe
so.
not?
Because of the way in which the town received its ARPA funds.
Okay, yeah, so
It was a half and then another half.
Oh, okay.
And then we split up between fiscal
Okay.
years, so I think we may be able to.
Maybe one more year.
Maybe one more year.
Which is kind of good, because, you know, when you've got new auditors coming in, you know, they're always going to want to know everything, and they're going to take a lot of time to understand all your systems, because we're required to do that. And if they have to do that too, like, but if you don't have to have what I call a single audit, like I did one for fiscal 21, and that's when you had the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, who really was outstanding. They really knew what they were doing, and they helped you get all those grants for community development, and they helped you figure out how to spend it, and they did all the bidding and all that kind of stuff. So it was really like done very well, so there were no findings. Fiscal 22, I didn't do a single audit, but I put this information in here, more as general information. But if they don't have to do one for 23, that'll give them more chance to just get to know all your systems and see what you're doing for all the other things.
We were just right below that threshold.
So, you know, then you can kind of work with them on what it is that they're gonna want from you during the next fiscal year. So give everyone time to get familiar with each other, you know? So that's all about the Federal Single Audit Act. Now, on page 2, like, the top part is the beginning, you know, the end of the first page. The middle part is the preparation of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which, you know, I'll be honest with you, that stuff, usually the auditors prepare it, even though the town really should. So I put it in here because the town should be more familiar with what's going in that, because like when we do a single audit, way on page like 58, it's the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and there's a lot of requirements on what goes in there, and it all ends up going to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, goes on to what we call a data collection fund. So the town really needs to know about all that stuff. But sometimes when you have auditors like me, we come in and we do a lot of it, and we explain it, but they're busy doing all their regular accounting. So, you know, when you have a new firm coming in, I want you to be aware of all this, more aware of it, and work with them to be sure that you're doing what they want, you know? But just below that second comment, like, you know, comment at the bottom of the page, it says, accounting internal controls, recording, reporting, and reconciling procedures. This says the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, and the American Institute of CPAs, which is the AICPA, require that governmental accounting and auditing follow governmental standards. It is important that internal accounting control procedures be in place by the government, and these internal controls must be reviewed during the audit. So that's what's required. And during our audit, we're required to look at those. And so the next paragraph right here and the paragraph on the top of the next page, I'm just going to verbally summarize that I looked at all of those controls. And the main ones that we look at, we spend almost all of our time in the town accountant's office looking at the general ledger, looking at all the accounts in the ledger, the revenues, the expenditures, fund balances, the transfers between funds, and so much. But we also spend a tremendous amount of time looking at the treasurer's records, and even quite a lot looking at the tax collector's records, because all three of those departments have to have systems in place where those things get recorded in all three departments, and they reconcile cash, they reconcile the receivables, they reconcile all kinds of balances, and they have to have procedures in place to do that, and it has to be done timely. And 2 years in a row now, I've told you that they do a good job. The accountant, the treasurer, and the collector, they do a good job in reconciling all that stuff on a timely basis, you know, every month. And so I'm very pleased with that. So that's basically what this is actually saying here. You know, in this comment, that's, you know, 2 paragraphs here and 1 on the next page. So in my opinion, you know, a good job is being done in that regard, and there are no material weaknesses or, you know, significant findings. But the next comment I have on page 3 is about the tablet attendance system there. So, you know, I talked with Jim about this, but I wrote it here. It says, during our audit, we had a discussion with the town administrator regarding a new system that he has instituted relating to the employees logging into iPads that have been mounted on the wall in most of the town's municipal buildings to keep track of when employees are entering and leaving buildings. Well, we feel that, you know, this is a good accounting control that has been implemented. What I said in the next sentence was, you know, we or I would be willing to have a discussion with the town administrator and the new auditors, you know, to determine what, you know, what do they think about that? You know, because everybody does things different wherever you go. It seems like it's a good idea, but, you know, let's get Tony Roselli in here, you know, and we can have a conversation, see what he thinks about how it works, or if it does work or whatever, if it could be like enhanced somewhat, and maybe somehow it might be able to be tied into the, you know, the new computer system you're getting, you know. That's another thing that I want to talk about in the next paragraph. This next paragraph here, it says, in our discussions with the town administrator, we also became aware of the fact that the town is in the process of implementing a new computerized accounting software system. You know, and what I said was, you know, I would be happy to provide any assistance that I can with the system, because like I said, my partner and I worked together for 35 years, just Dickinson and Company. We actually implemented quite a few uniform municipal accounting systems. The state actually gave us grants back in the beginning to do all that. We've helped towns implement computer systems. So we're very familiar with the uniform municipal accounting system, the chart of accounts, and it's just not as simple as people think. There's a lot more to it. And, you know, it becomes quite complex at times. And, you know, so all I said here was, you know, depending on, you know, talking with Jim or whatever, I would be willing to help out if it seems like it's appropriate. A little bit further in that paragraph, it says, we would also be willing to provide assistance to the town in recording the complex accounting entries relating to ending the town's landfill enterprise fund. Because, you know, it's not like it's just, oh, here it is over here, it's just a little fund, and you just end it. It's just not that simple. It requires, I mean, it has a lot of fixed assets included in the enterprise fund. It has certain reserves there are rules that came out about 12 to 14 years ago relating to, the reason why you have all this landfill stuff in this, like the post-closure cost and the reserve necessary and all that kind of stuff. So you can't just like end it, and just push it over in the general fund and just forget about it. There's a lot of rules relating to it, and doing all that is difficult and complex. And so my business partner and I, you know, we still work together on some things. On next Monday, we're gonna get together and we're gonna look at your general ledger accounting system. We're gonna look at the fixed assets that are included in the landfill fund, you know, which is like $450,000. We're gonna look at the accounts that are sitting there in that general ledger, in that fund, and we're gonna figure out the exact entries to take it out of there, to put it into the general fund. But like also, what are the requirements are there relating to the post-closure reserve requirement? You know, there are all these rules. So the thing I thought about was somebody like Tammy. I think Tammy's doing a really good job. She's very smart. She's learning real quickly. But you know, this stuff takes years, and she's only been here like maybe 3 years. So I think she's doing a lot of things really well. But to ask someone like her to, oh, go ahead, just close the landfill fund, do all the transfers, and take care of all the fixed assets, and make sure the reserves are right. Like some of that stuff she probably never even heard of, because she just sort of does what's been there before. And so, you know, I told her I would help her with that, and I am going to help her with that. So I'm going to talk to my partner on Monday, and I'm going to come out at some point and help her with that, because it's a complicated thing, and you only do it once, and then it's done. Because you've got new auditors coming, so I want to do it right, you know. I want to get it done right, and I don't want them coming in here and saying to you, well, that whole thing was all messed up, you know, and whatever. The other thing is, another thing I want to point out to you is that in a lot of our towns, like we did maybe almost 30 towns, schools, cities and stuff like that for like 30 years, we would set up in our software, which is just in Excel spreadsheet, all of the fixed assets in the town. About 15 years ago, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board said, we want all towns and schools in the state and the country to set up fixed assets. Before that, fixed assets weren't recorded in the ledger. They weren't recorded in these financial statements. So 15 years ago, it was a gigantic project, and we got very involved. We worked with the state on helping places implement this, and we helped this town implement the fixed assets. So we have spreadsheets set up with literally hundreds and hundreds of rows of assets that have all these categories of what they are and how many years, you know, depreciation, all this stuff. It's all set up in a gigantic spreadsheet that's gigantic. And of course, we know things like pivot tables and things of that nature. And so for a lot of our towns, we do that for the towns. So for this town, Madeline, she never really had to do anything with it because we did it. You know, so some auditors that come in and do certain things for you, you know, and so for the fixed assets, I never actually even gave it to her because it's all included in the big report. And I explained it to her, I showed it to her, and she understood it, but we did it. So that's another thing I'm gonna show Tammy, I'm gonna explain it to Tammy, I'm gonna work with Tammy, I'm gonna give her that, I'm gonna show it to her. But the other thing is included in there is all the categories like general fund or governmental, you know, water or sewer enterprise fund and landfill, and you know, those all have to be moved over, taken out of the enterprise fund for landfill, and it's complicated stuff. And you know, so I'm gonna help her with all of that kind of stuff. Because the other thing is I'm gonna talk with Tony, because we talked with Tony when we went to his office, and he has a certain way of recording fixed assets, and he might even use what's called soft write or something like that. And so I'm not quite sure exactly how he wants to take what we have and sort of like maybe what then you're gonna have and put it into how he's gonna do it. You know, so I wanna work with him and Tammy and figure this stuff out. So anyhow, that's why I said in there that I'd be willing to help out if you want me to help out, especially with the implementation of a new computer system. Because, you know, everybody says, yeah, just go ahead, just implement that system. But there's a lot more to it than people realize. And so as the next few months or weeks or whatever go by, you know, I'll talk with Jim if you want me to come help out, I can. But I'm gonna help her with a couple of these things for sure, because I feel like, you know, I owe that much to the town, you know. Any questions on all that?
No, no, thank you very much so far. It's good to see that we have nothing significant that's out there, and no red flags.
No, I
of
think,
anything concerning. Everything's pretty much lined up.
it is, it really is. And, you know, to implement a new computer system, it's a big deal. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of people think, oh, you could just do that, but it's not like that. So the old system you had, it worked, but it really wasn't the greatest, but it worked. I was able to do all my audits, I was able to get all my numbers, and I never said it was a problem or a finding. But the new guy that comes in, Tony Roselli, I know he knows, he's like, what, you still have that software? You know, and so it's old-fashioned and it's not flexible, you know. But you know what, you're gonna be implementing a whole new system. But sometimes when you've got another system that might have been a little, almost like a clunker in a way, and you're trying to bring it into a new system, you know, there are a lot of quirks that, you know, become complicated. So that's why I told Jim I'd be willing to try to help out if necessary. Because we just don't want it to fail, you know, because you don't want to come like a year down the road or whatever and then find out, uh-oh, we should have thought about this back in July, August, September. This is all messed up, you know, and it happens, believe me, it does. I've seen it happen. But for now, everything through June 30, 22, which is quite a long time ago, it was good. And I think everything's still going well all the way through 23. But I think that they're aiming at converting July 1st to the whole new system. And I'm telling you, I've seen that happen before, all kinds of ways. And so, you know, I just want to be sure the next first few months. I mean, I know how to look at things. There are things that accountants do. They can look at a trial balance and go, wait a minute, why is that a credit? It should be a debit. Like, why is that a debit? It should be credit. How come the due to, due froms don't equal? How come the transfers in don't equal the transfers out? You know, and that's stuff that I talk about. It's almost like an electrician. You could say all that. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't want to even touch it, you know? And when you're setting up a new system, it's critically important to do it that way, you know, do it the right way. You know, I don't really have anything else unless you have questions.
I think it's really great that you giving us a little extra hand with the new system that's coming online.
Yeah.
Because again, it's change, everybody's learning,
Yeah.
learning a new system. And, you know, there's a number of things that can go wrong when you're switching to something brand new that nobody's used before.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we're off to a good start. You know,
Yeah,
I'm very happy with your audit. I was expecting to see something that stood out that was a red flag or something that we need to fix or that was a concern. And it's good to see that you didn't find anything.
No, a
Nothing
couple of minor
significant.
things, you know, but, you know, what we call significant deficiencies, material weakness is not that way. You know,
But our
that-
books line up.
There's one thing that Jim will talk about later relating to something to do with the deputy collector or whatever, but
Yeah.
that's not something I'm involved with right now. And, you know, but other than that, everything else, you know, is really, in my opinion, very good. So,
Do you have any questions?
No question, just appreciate taking us through baby steps and through your report and your opinion. It's very important to us, and I appreciate the way you expose it. I think it's a wonderful way to show us the people who don't really understand the
Yeah.
numbers as well as others, but,
Right.
you know, thank you very much.
I actually enjoy doing that a lot because, you know, you do all those little numbers, and I like doing all the little numbers, but this part here, you know,
This is the fruit of your labor now.
yeah, it's
You-
just.
you're showing
I
us what
enjoy
you
it. And it's
did.
like, people are actually getting something out of it, so I appreciate the comments, because, you know, if you just look at this report, you know, and I send it to him, you know, he probably just kind of looks at it like, okay, you know, but if you have someone that sort of says a little more about it, I think it makes it better. And so Jim, you could just call me at some point.
Thank you.
I'm gonna come out and see Tammy to do a few things
Oh.
before June 30th, but if you want some more at some point, or if you have some concerns, or if you want me to just sort of look it over or whatever, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Ray, do you have any questions, William?
Not right now, without.
Lot of
I
information,
understood
right?
everything you've said, but to look at the numbers themselves, I you need time.
Yeah. you do.
Absolutely.
Jim, we have the representation letter that we have
Oh,
here
yeah.
signed.
Yeah, that's right, forgot about that. Thank you. I would have been emailing you like, oh, by the way. So there's what we call a representation letter that used to be like 2 pages. Eventually they made it to 3, then it was 4, now it's like about 6 pages where a bunch of lawyers write it. And they're saying, you are responsible for these reports that I did. You know, I have responsibility, but you're responsible for the numbers therein. You're responsible for the controls that I'm talking about. You're responsible for a lot of stuff. And that's what that representation letter says. You are supposed to make me aware of any, like, fraud or things of that nature, and so I'm not aware of any fraud, you know, and I'm glad.
If you find any, let us know.
Yeah, if I do, I'd have to tell you all
Yeah,
about it.
that.
It's a whole new level of stuff, I say, you know, but I've seen it a couple times, but I'd rather not. But the other thing I wanted to say, thank you for having me on first, because last night I went to a school committee meeting at one of the regional schools out back in the eastern part, you know, and they had some kind of a closed door hearing thing of some sort, and I was supposed to be on about 7:30. At about 8:45, they came out and said, oh, okay, now it's time. So I sat there for an hour and 45 minutes, just waiting for them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. That's why I appreciate you doing it this way. I really do. Put me on first.
Time's money, and we appreciate all you do, and
Well, thank you for, I mean, all these years I've been coming here, and I hope to be able to keep helping Jim with some of the higher level things involved with the whole conversion. She's making a
she's
copy.
making a copy.
Yeah.
It's all
And,
set.
So, officially, let's see, what's today? June 30th, I'll have been doing audits for, and at one of the meetings, the Board of Selectmen, the chairman said, I said, I'm not sure I want to say exactly how long I've been doing this. He said, why don't you say 25 plus? I said, hey, that sounds good. So I'm going to say 30 plus.
All
Plus,
right.
quite a few I've been doing it. But as of June 30th, I'm not doing audits anymore. But I'm going to do consulting assistance and things. I still do tax returns, so I'm not about to sit
So
home.
you're not completely retired.
I'm not gonna sit home with the wife all day, that's for sure. But I do believe you do have good systems in place, and it'll be a little bit of a struggle implementing a whole new system now, you know, so. I told Jim I would be willing to come out and try to help if certain things don't seem quite right, you know. Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you very much, have a good evening. I'll be talking to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. Yep. Hold on. Nice to meet you.
Very good. That was good news. Good news. Okay. Chief, you're up. So discussion and possible vote on appointing Mr. Andrew Nepal as a full-time police officer for a 1-year term.
Good evening.
So
So,
didn't we just appoint you as a part-time?
You did.
could you guys move to the middle, because I blocked that section, so
Oh,
the AC
sorry.
doesn't bother the audio.
So tonight I bring to you one of our part-time officers, Andrew Paul. He's been with us since the end of May. He comes with us, like I told you, the first time, 18 years experience with college policing. We have an open slot for full-time, and Andrew would like to slide into that spot. He doesn't have to go to an academy. He's got the SSPO Academy in 2003. Right? So he's all set. We just gotta move him up and get him trained.
It's all post-certified.
Yep.
Very good. Do you have anything to say, sir?
No, I appreciate the time, I appreciate the offer and the ability to serve the town of Warren and citizens. Look forward to improving what I can and the offer, bring to the table.
Very good. All right. Did you have anything?
No, I had met Mr. Nepal with the chief when we were interviewing for candidates. He's very well qualified, has some stellar recommendations by some former officers of ours, and welcome him to a full-time position.
Same for me. Thank you very much for, being here.
Thank you.
it's probably one of the best things we get to do, is be able to appoint new police officers to the town and get new officers into the community and stuff. We still gotta vote. It's not good yet. But, so I think it's great. Thank you very much for coming, taking the opportunity. And, again, out of all the things we do, this is one of the things that's like my favorite thing to do, is appointing new people on. Between the police and the fire, and you guys get along great, so.
Adam's all right.
He is the best fire chief in the state. All right, so I'll do a motion to appoint Mr. Andrew Nepal as a full-time police officer for a term of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Ihawker is out today, so you missed his vote, but I know he'd support you too. So congratulations and welcome to the job. 1 year full-time now. Congratulations. You're welcome.
Congratulations, good to see you.
All right. Do we have the appointment?
I have it, but it's not here, so I'll find it out.
Get it.
Yeah,
Within
once
a
they
week.
sign it, I'll get it to
Okay.
you and we can.
Yeah.
Okay?
Get it signed, and then just make sure you get sworn in. You gotta get
Yeah.
sworn in with the town clerk.
Right.
As a full-time
Just let me know when you
officer.
get that slip and I'll.
I'll have it tonight. It's
Yeah.
in there somewhere.
No problems.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. If you wanna hang out, you can hang out, or probably wanna
Nah,
head
I don't
home.
wanna hang
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion and possible vote on updating the position description for the assessor's clerk position. Okay. So. Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, before you this evening is a job description for the assessor's clerk position. As you are aware, the assessor's clerk position has been vacant for some time now. And our plan and our strategy with the Board of Assessors was to get on board our assistant assessor, which is, she's relatively new to town, as you know. For the last couple months, has been getting acclimated with the office, with the board, attending various trainings, and getting familiarized with the office and the town. So now, it's come to a point where the Board of Assessors has brought to my attention that they would like to start advertising for the position of an assessor's clerk position. This position, unlike the assistant assessor's position, this position is an appointment by the Board of Selectmen. This is a clerk, a role position, support staff. By statute, the assistant assessor is appointed by the Board of Assessor. This position would be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So they had discovered an old job description that was in town. We cleaned it up a little bit to modernize it. This is a part-time position, 19 hours. It's covered by the personnel policy bylaw. And will have the direct supervision of the Board of Assessors, will report to the town administrator, and will work in conjunction with the assistant assessor. The hours of the office will be scheduled by the Board of Assessors, and will be worked will be performed within the assessor's office, and the scheduling of working hours, are based on the operational needs of the office with the approval of the Board of Selectmen. So, once we get this person selected and interviewed, we we will bring these candidates before the board for consideration. And the board will review them and make the appointing authority. I would imagine that this will be in conjunction with the Board of Assessors, seeing as though they're going to be giving direction to this person. And this role will be for, the essential functions will be for verifying, accepting abatement and exemption applications, working with figures. This person should have, strong computer skills with knowledge of Microsoft Suite, familiar with property field cards, daily filing is going to be required, answers the phone, provides superior customer service, works well with others, is a team player, takes direction, and working knowledge, although not required, but would be helpful. Any working knowledge of Vadar or Patriot software is a benefit but not required. Minimum is a high school graduate with some post-secondary education in office skills or business is desired. Preferred would be somebody with a bachelor's degree. This is a part-time position, 19 hours. The range is, starting July 1, the minimum is $16.73 with a maximum of $22.48 an hour. And again, that range is slowly based on qualifications, experience, and educational background, okay? So when somebody sees, well, this person's going to start at $22.48 an hour, well, that's not necessarily the case. It's all depending on what their education, their experience, and their background is. If somebody comes in that was an assistant assessor in another community, is looking to downsize and looking just for a part-time job, well then, they would probably, maybe based on their skill set and their educational experience, they may qualify for a higher level step. This again would give some type of scale to attract a broader pool of candidates that may be interested in applying for this position. They would, as long as the board is comfortable with this, they would like to start posting this around July 3rd and have the posting run for the entire month of July. And then hopefully we will get all the resumes and cover letters and letters of interest back to review, and then bring them before the board.
Okay. And the hourly rate's based on pay scale?
It's based on the pay scale, right? FY '24 pay scale, which would start July 1.
I don't see anything basic position description. It looks like you get everything there, so it looks good to me. Any questions?
Looks good to me too. I would just, instead of saying Microsoft Suite, I would say Windows operating system, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel.
Okay.
Because Suite, it's way too big. It has other things over there that, may scare some candidates. That
Okay. We can break it down.
We don't use it, like Teams and there's other stuff. Better to describe.
Okay.
Definitely we want them to know Word, basic computer skills. Excel, maybe PowerPoint, because then the other ones are really.
Outlook.
Outlook is your email, yeah. You definitely should know that.
You're doing a lot of emails, so.
Yeah. Okay, we'll make that change.
And also because the search engines, when you describe Word, PowerPoint, Excel, it triggers more.
Sure.
Good. All right, so I guess we could take a vote. You want to vote on this one, right?
Sure, if it's approved by the board, then we can get it posted.
Yep. And we just approve it with the changes being
Yep.
made. So, all right, so I'll do a motion to approve the updated position description for the assessor clerk, and with the recommended changes.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. You're approved, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And discussion and possible appointments on 1 year and for 1 year terms.
Can't
Okay.
do the first two.
Okay, nope, we can't do those because they're not here. Well, we could do the second one,
Okay.
because that's for Rich,
Yep, yep, you're right.
so you just can't have Derek vote on himself. So. Okay, so we'll just go through these, and I'll motion to appoint Rich Ihawker on the Board of Selectmen as an alternate for Central Mass Regional Planning Commissioner for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimous. A motion that we appoint Otto Shalito on the Conservation Commission for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. A motion that we appoint Philip A. Woodford on the Conservation Commission for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. A motion that we appoint Gail Winders on the Council of Aging as a general helper for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Motion that we appoint Don Guzik for the Police Administrative Clerk for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. A motion that we appoint Sylvia Buck on the Quabog Hill Tourism for a period of 1 year.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Gary Lapine, I thought he was done.
Not until November 1st.
Is he done?
Not until
In
November
November.
1st. That's what his resignation was, as of November 1st.
Okay. So a motion to appoint Gary Lapine as the Veteran Service Officer until November 1st, 2023.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next one are for 3-year terms. And I motion to appoint Martha Goodyear on the Board of Appeals for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. The motion that we appoint Ronald G. Ledger on the Board of Appeals for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Motion that we appoint Carrie A. Schmidt on the Board of Appeals for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint Joyce Ihawker on Conservation Commission for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay. I motion that we appoint Sharon Melly as the Council on Aging Director for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint Sharon Melly as the COA and SMC Elder Bus for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint William Chauclair on the Historical Commission for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint Thomas G. Perkins on the Historical Commission for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint Sylvia Buck on the Historical Commission for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. I motion that we appoint Ronald G. Ledger on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a period of 3 years.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay. Well, that was a lot of talking. It is. Okay, warrants and bills.
No, because they have to have 1 year off. Jim,
Who?
the cultural council.
Oh, could you do Al Dymo?
No,
What?
He expires on June 30th, 2023. Council on Aging.
Nope, it is Tim. Albert Dyno,
Cultural Council.
yes. It's highlighted in yellow.
Okay. Motion to appoint Albert Dymo to the Council of Aging for a period of 3 years.
Mm.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously.
And the cultural council has to have a year off, so none of those can be reappointed.
Okay. So that's it?
Yep.
All right, warrants and bills. Okay.
Don't do mine,
Huh?
don't do mine. The top one,
Yeah,
don't do it.
okay. Those are the warrants though?
Those are the bills, the warrants are on here.
Okay, so you don't have, all right. So a motion that we approve the warrant for payroll number 113 in the amount of $48,794.72. And vendor 114 in the amount of $171,227.75.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay. So just do these on that. Okay. For bills, a motion that we pay the bills for B&G Mechanical Services, Inc. in the amount of $1,012.66. Merrick O'Connell in the amount of $1,915. KP Law in the amount of $5,459.36. Buffin Cleaning Services in the amount of $1,600. National Grid in the amount of $344.42. And My Marlin in the amount of $1,107.23.
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bellis, aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. Okay. Let's just sign this and get that done with.
You gotta wait for a transfer.
Hmm?
You gotta wait for a transfer.
Minutes, we don't have any, right?
Nope.
Town administrator report. Yep, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the board. Although it was a short week, but it was a very busy week. So this week, to recap some of the things that had transpired since we last met, we had over 16 inquiries to our RFP for a feasibility study for a phase one feasibility study for a public safety and municipal complex. This study is going to tell us how much it would possibly cost to construct this type of complex for the town. We had 16 inquiries, we had one response. And the one response that we did get was from Tecton Architects. It's a highly qualified firm from Hartford, Connecticut. They've done probably anywhere between 30 to 40 public safety complexes throughout Massachusetts, whether it be a combination of just firehouses, public safety complexes, or just police stations, or public or municipal complex joined in with public safety. They've done a whole host of different combinations, and you will see their proposal. It will be coming before you in the not too distant future. We have I met with Tammy, who is still our procurement officer until the end of the month, and we went over the proposal initially. We decided that it's critically important that we have a review committee, so we brought in the two chiefs, myself, the accountant, and Kathy Banis, who served on one of our previous committee and as a town resident. And we're going to be meeting next Tuesday to review and actually score the proposal. I will reserve comment on the scoring until that time, but on face value, from what they had put in their proposal, it looks very promising. And their experience for what they've done Munson Public Safety and Municipal Complex, they've done Wilbraham, they've done Sutton, they've done Charlottetown, they did, they're currently doing West Springfield, they're doing Westfield, they've done Wareham, they've done a ton throughout Massachusetts. The list is so long I can't remember them all, but they have extensive knowledge, and it's our goal that if this company is selected and we could move forward, then they would be able to provide us with all of that phase one information, make presentations to the community, inform the community on the costs, the tax implications, the long-term payments that would be associated with this, the potential savings that could be associated with this, with consolidating down buildings and liquidating assets. So there's a whole host of different combinations that could transpire for this. They have met the terms in terms of the time frame that we were looking to do. The time frame we were looking to get this wrapped up within 6 months. They said that they could probably facilitate that in their proposal. They said that they could do that, and the cost. The cost is also a factor, and it looks like that we would only have to use a small amount of ARPA funds to offset it, as I kind of predicted, to get this done. We got a grant for $40,000 from the state, but we will need some offsetting money from ARPA, and we would still have a little bit of ARPA left if we were to move forward with this group. So it's well within our budget, and I'm kind of excited, meeting with the review committee on Tuesday to try to move this process forward, to see where we can go from here. Today, I had an opportunity to go out with both chiefs, our health department, and some MEMA representatives at a tabletop discussion in Spencer. We were drafting a scenario, and Jim McKeon was there as well. We were given a scenario of a hurricane, a Category 2 hurricane hitting our community. What would we do to prepare? I've heard numerous discussions with both chiefs, with Jim McKeon, with our health Board of Health people and our support staff there. All very good, very positive responses from MEMA, from what we talked about and some of the action plans that the town has presented to MEMA in terms of how our response would be. I can honestly say that I think that they were impressed. And I made a pitch to MEMA. I said, a lot of this stuff that we're doing is tough for a small rural community. We don't have the resources as the big cities do. And the state has to look at us from a different lens because of that, and they should provide us with some additional support to help our community. And I explained to them it's tough to find vendors that will come out to our community to do the work. When vendors are tied up in the big cities and they can make a quick buck out there, they may not want to drive out an extra 30 minutes to get the same money when they can get it in the cities or more. So it's tough, and they realize that, and a lot of communities are realizing that. West Brookfield was there, Spencer was there, and what was the other community? Was it Leicester? North Brookfield, yeah. North Brookfield, yeah. So it was a good tabletop exercise. Hopefully that we will see some opportunities come down the pike from MEMA for some additional grants or support, whether it be for funding of a shelter. If we have to do a temporary shelter, it costs money. Every time you open up a shelter, it's resources, it's money. Putting police and fire at the shelter, it's resources, taking away from the town. And so, it's critically important that we get some offset money from the state, and I'm going to be continuing to ask them for that, for smaller communities. And, making sure that we have MOUs. I'm going to be working with the chiefs and with our highway to have some additional MOUs, memorandums of understandings with some vendors for possible tree work, for emergency supplies and different things, in case we are in need of a critical incident or critical storm. So that's one thing that I think we could improve upon, and we will continue to work to get those done for the town. Other than that, was a pretty busy week with trying to close out the year end, and obviously we have a special town meeting coming up next week to handle the school budget, but it was a lot condensed in a few short days. So happy to take any questions or any concerns that the board may have.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Good to see that you guys did the tabletop today. I seen Jim McKeon. I know he's on there. I seen him at McDonald's this morning, so I wanted to wave to him, but he was busy. He was on his way to Spencer, so. But good, very good. Anytime you can take anything away from that and learn something and network a little bit, maybe open up some more funding avenues for getting out of the grants. It's always a good thing. So, good job.
Thank you.
Jim McKeon, did you have anything on that? Is he? There you are. You there, Jim? That plugged in all?
He has a bad signal.
Think you got a bad signal, Jim. We'll catch up with you later on it. You there? Nah, you got a bad signal, Jim. We're gonna move on, okay? Nope. Just go ahead. All right, we're gonna move on, Jim. All right, thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. And is that it?
Yes, sir.
Did you guys have anything to add about the training today?
No, I talked to Jim afterwards, those MOUs would probably be a good thing to get in place. I just think some information out to the public again, to make sure that they understand the difference of shelter and shelter in place, and making sure that people are prepared. I still think a lot of us up in this way just don't see these things enough to, not to take them seriously, but just to prepare enough that you may have to go 72 hours in your own residence. So I think we can do some things to, help inform people and more supplies and what types of stuff they need and everything to try to hold off on the sheltering as much as possible in some situations. Because it is a challenge to set up a shelter as well. So we talked about some of those things afterwards. We'll be addressing some of that stuff.
So, one thing that my work does, which is good because we have a emergency preparedness month, and they go over all that, is a good thing is a display. They put out a display of what an emergency kit would be for home. Having certain things in there like flashlights, batteries, bottled water, maybe some canned foods, things like that, and have that all in there of what you need. Emergency radio, something that doesn't, you can wind up or use. So it's pretty good. It gives some people that really don't understand, like they're not going to look at something and a list and say, okay, I need this and this. But if they get a visual of what one looks like, that tends to help people sometimes. So, but yeah, good job. All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add something to that, maybe for the elderly people? If they could put a list of their prescriptions?
Yes.
Because if you went to help somebody, and they said, I don't have my prescription, well, you wouldn't even begin to know what their prescriptions were. I
Right.
can't remember half the time when my doctor said, well, what do you want? I don't know, look in your computer, So, that might be a handy thing too.
No, that's a
So
good
it's one
idea.
of those little things that you just don't think of.
Yeah, because it seems like people run out of those things in an emergency,
Yep.
and they can't get to them.
Yeah,
So.
and they always say, bring your prescriptions, but if you can't do that, like in an emergency box that you have, at least have a list. And maybe your doctor's information or family member's contact information, that might be helpful too.
Yeah. Is that something that you have, like cards or something prepared for?
We do.
They
There
have
are
like a
some-
file of
MEMA
life.
does, yeah, we
Yeah.
have, we encourage our especially elderly populations and stuff, we have things that we can hand out, like files of life, that will have that information on there. There are things that MEMA does hand out during, like, storm preparation, or emergency preparation month and stuff like that. There are lists that they do have out there, and see if we can track some of those down, because I think the education piece of it is a big portion, that a lot of people just lack that, and they just don't understand, what they truly need, for their family unit for that prolonged period of time. And I think that we face that in different times when we've opened the shelter, and people don't know quite when a shelter's appropriate versus maybe a warming or cooling center instead, or sheltering in place temporarily. So, so I think some of that education might help with some of that. Those types of lists of what, not only medications, but people that may need EpiPens and other things like that, is, appropriate for their safety and health, that, you would tend to overlook in an emergency situation, so.
And that could be added to the senior center. newsletter. A lot of people get that, and, I mean,
Very good, very good
find out
comment.
what the Antonio Clinic is and what to pack in a case of emergency.
Thank you very much on that. All right. So on to new business. You have any new business?
No, sir?
New business? You got new business. Old business? Any old business?
Do the flags that we wanted to get entered into old businesses? Or
So, yeah, we gotta talk about that, because that is much more than what I expected, because we have to have a $2 million policy, insurance policy
Yeah.
for the flags to go, put
It's
flags
their-
on the
yeah,
posts?
It's their poles, yeah.
So how much is that actually,
I'll have to get a quote, you know.
yeah, if you could figure out how much that is, because I can't picture all these towns are doing that, because they see the flags going up everywhere.
Well, some towns may own their poles, you know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
do we have, I mean, that sounds like a lot off the top of it, but don't we already have a liability policy? Like as a contractor, I need to have $1 million liability just to
We-
take a
we
driveway
do.
permit. You know, so would it be covered?
but National Grid said we have to name them as a beneficiary.
Well, that's how it is now for any.
For a $2 million insurance policy.
Yeah, but that's how that all works. Like for me, when I do a,
I'm not buying it.
when I come to Warren to take out a driveway permit, I have to have $1 million worth of liability. I have to name you as a beneficiary. That's just the way it is now.
Right, but it's something we didn't expect, because we just wanted to put
Yeah,
flag
but
poles
it's
on
not like
telephone
it's
poles.
not like it's a, you know.
Don't be afraid of the $2 million.
Yeah, it's not like it's a big
No.
cost thing or anything
No,
like that.
but
It's
these
just that
are
it's
things we didn't expect, and we have to, you know, we
It's
have
probably
to.
already covered. It's just under the policy.
I
I would assume
Yeah,
the town
we
has
check.
more than a $2 million
See-
policy.
oh, yeah.
If I could have a $1 million, you know what I mean, the town must have, so I would.
Yeah, there's specific where we had to name them as a
Yep.
beneficiary,
that's
so
just-
if anything happened, you know,
That's
they can go
standard.
after
That's-
it.
That's standard.
And then,
The electrical contractor that pulls an electrical permit has to name the town of Warren.
We do.
You get an insurance binder.
Yeah.
And then we have to do a, we have to do a, was it MOU
Mhm.
for it? Because we have to say how they're not responsible for any of the pole, you know, the flags. Then we can't screw anything to the poles.
Right.
It has to be banded to the pole, because they want no screws in the poles. So we have to figure out a banding system, because I noticed a lot of them
They're screwed in.
through the towns, they're not banded, they're
No.
screwed into the poles, and they don't want anything screwed into their poles.
Perhaps that's the conversation we can have together with the Veterans Council, because we're thinking about, and I'm sure you've seen, other towns that do it with, banners
Yep.
that have the actual service person
Mhm.
in their name and the Army, Navy, whatever.
So I was
whatever
actually
branch
looking at
they were
light
in.
poles, because one of the things that would be nice is to have light poles going through the center of town, and that's part of, one of the things with beautifying. And they have the banners that go on the light poles.
Mhm.
Because Ware actually has it, they're doing it, Ware has those nice light poles
The
in there.
windows, yeah.
And they have the banners on
Yeah.
them now. And who else? Hardwick, if you go into the center of Hardwick, they have them too, and they do nice.
Yeah, we just went up to Fitchburg and they have them all through the town. Lexington has them. They're beautiful and they're nice, and, you know, families could adopt their vet and, you know.
Banning it is a very simple procedure. It's not a big deal.
In doing those poles, I was looking them up, they were only like a couple grand a piece. So, they weren't that expensive, but I might be looking at the wrong thing. I was just typing in commercial light poles with banner hangers, and they had all thousands of different types out there that we could do. So,
But
but
that's
that's
something-
part of when we do over the center too. That could be implemented in there too. Right now, we're looking at something more simple where we just wanted to put mounts on the
Right.
poles, just like West Brookfield did, and every other town's
We just
doing.
went to West Brookfield and I said, but the common does look beautiful with
It
the
does.
American flags on both sides of the common. It really does, so.
And that's,
you know.
that's what we're looking to do, and
Or, yeah.
National Grid's like, stop, don't put anything on the poles till we have an agreement. So, we have to come up with that agreement.
Yeah.
Maybe step
How many
back.
poles we're gonna do it, you know, and some sort of plan, because they're probably gonna want a layout of all the poles that will have flags on them. That's probably gonna be your thing,
Be happy to do it.
so.
Get forgiveness versus permission.
Yeah. I highly doubt some of these towns ask permission from National Grid to do that. 'Cause they're like bolted into the pole, you know, so. But yeah, you had no old business, right? So, that was old business. And then the radio systems, how are they working out?
So I discussed this last time, you know, we are still dealing with that interference issue. You know, the FCC is involved in it. We do know the source of it, and we're working with them. They had a technician out there today. They did make some adjustments to it. It did not fix the problem. It made it better, but there's still an existing problem. So before I was here, I was actually on the phone. That's why I was late. I was talking with the FCC agent that we've been assigned. So their plan is they should be supplying a report to them tomorrow to see what adjustments were made. Obviously, we know more has to be made, but he is working with them. So, I mean, we're working as quickly as we can to resolve it. The system's working, it's just that we are having interference on it. So, you know, the police department is experiencing, you know, a lot less. So I anticipate that, you know, we are also looking at an option of putting not a transmitter, but a receiver at the fire station as well. We do have some money to be able to do that. And that will also help with the downtown area as well and some of the buildings in here. So we're looking at a few different things that we're trying to tweak, but you know, we're well aware of what's happening now. At least we know where the source is, and we're working with them to resolve it. Ultimately, you know, they're going to have to do what they need to do to fix it, because we trump them in terms of you know, the pecking order, because we're public safety and they're a utility. They're public service utility. So being public safety, they are going to have to adjust what they do. And I don't think it's malicious. I think it's existed for quite a long time. We're just hearing it for the first time because the towers are higher now. And I think what's happening is they believe that there's a couple pieces of equipment that are not functioning correctly, and that's why they're giving out too strong of a signal and too wide of a signal, and that's why we're getting blasted with that interference. So there's nothing wrong with our system. It's that interference that's coming from another source. So we're still actively working on it.
So it's not like a ham radio guy out there?
No, this is, you know, it was identified as one of the public utilities in Westfield. So, you know, so this is a
Westfield?
Yes, so this is a big, you know, that's half the problem, is it's blasting out way too far. It's that they're giving out way too much, way more power than they're licensed for. You know, and that's one of the problems. And again, I don't believe it's a malicious thing. I think it's more of a technology issue that's happening, and they're just trying to get to the bottom of it. So we're working every day. I'm taking phone calls on this, trying to get this resolved with their vendors and who has to do the physical work for that. But at least the good thing is that the FCC was very quick to jump on this. They jumped all over it, actually, and they've been in, you know, they're the ones that tracked down the source with their specialized equipment, and were able to, I mean, they drove around for hours tracking it and everything until they pinpointed exactly what location it was coming from. So we know it needs to be done. We're just working through the time frame to get it done. So, and then I anticipate that we won't have any other problems. You know, the issue is that it's a constant pulsating thing, and it's on about 75% of the time, and it's off 25%. So 75% of the time, if we're transmitting on our portables and stuff, we're getting blasted, and then it'll shut off and then turn back on. So that's the problem, and it's not affecting our tone outs. It's not affecting Rutland. Rutland is crystal clear. If you hear them today from where they heard them before, they are crystal clear. So we know there's been huge improvements because of the system. The problem is not on their end. They're able to tone us out. It's not like they're walking over our tones. We're not missing any emergency calls or anything like that. The problem is on our transmit side. When we're trying to talk back to Rutland, that's where the interference is coming from, and that's what we're trying to resolve. So.
Okay, very good.
I will continue to update the board on a weekly basis, but hopefully only to do that a couple times. It'll come to a quick resolution, and you know, we just need to work it out between both parties. But the good thing is that FCC is the mediator. This is what they do. They get into these situations, and they come up with a mediation plan to resolve them. And the company or the agency that truly needs and has the priority, they make sure that it's done the right way. So.
Very good. All right. I have no other old business. That's it. Oh, the park benches, did they get ordered?
I believe Parks is gonna order them.
Do you know if they ordered them yet?
I don't know if they ordered them yet.
Okay.
They have the approval to order them.
Okay. And then, we know when the fireworks are for Warren yet?
I don't think they're until September, right? Or late August?
Yeah, but we have a date yet? Because I know I've been getting asked about that, when they're gonna be, so. Okay. All right. So correspondence. We have an anonymous letter. And I think this is something we gotta look into before we say anything about this. Because we really can't comment on it and say anything because,
I think we could refer it to the building
Somebody-
department and the
Yeah.
fire department for a referral, and then maybe they could
well,
report back to
you were
us.
CC'd in that letter, right?
I was, I'm not gonna get involved until I get determination from the building department, and whatnot. I think it's in their purview to look at that first and make a determination. I cannot do a cease and desist only for very specific reasons. The building department has that ability in a much better, or not better, but in a much broader capacity. So it sounds to me like these is more of an occupancy building and usage issue, and I would like to have them weigh on it first before I go up there and do anything and overstep any bounds that I may have. I'll be happy to work in conjunction with for some of the other things, but I think it's best that we work together on it and certainly get a determination from the board, from the building department, what the permits are for, the occupancy, the usage, and see where that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Has BJ been aware of this? She aware of
Well,
it?
it was sent to her too, so, yeah.
If you could just follow up with her
Okay.
on that.
Yep. Mhm.
And get a response back from her.
Sure.
If she can get something, give us something in writing
Mm-hmm.
of an opinion on it. Are you good with that?
Yes, sir.
Because that's not us, that's.
Right.
I agree with Adam, it's a building issue, and she would be the one, she's our enforcement agent for anything like that, so. Not a selectman matter. Okay, and then.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna bring back that letter that we received about changing the name.
Yeah, we gotta, because we don't own that,
I understand, I just, should
and
we
it's definitely something we
redirect
gotta
that
do.
email to, or how do we do?
Well, I think it's a great idea, but we need to talk to the mom and, yeah, I'd be in support of it. I would like to see it happen, but I don't think we should say anything about it until the mom says yes or no, because the family has a right to privacy too, and she might not want that. So, but she would be our first stop on that. And if she's good with it and thinks it's good, I think it'd be great to do.
Well, you know, you may.
We don't
wanna-
own it though.
Right,
but we
right, you
can-
may wanna consult with the water district first.
Right,
You
we'd
know,
have to talk with them.
you know, before you even bring in, the family.
Right. So-
Jimmy, you wanna follow up with that email and
Sure.
and telling this gentleman that we are looking at it, and
I will contact the water district first,
Yeah.
and because if they say no, then,
Yeah, they might turn around like, no, we're not interested in doing that, and
no.
I just
Yeah, I
don't
would
wanna
talk to
leave that
them.
email
I would
without
talk to them
response.
first before you talk to
Yeah.
the mom.
Yeah.
Because if they say no, you say,
Mhm.
she says, yeah, it'd be great, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
the water department says, absolutely not happening,
Right.
you know?
Now, if you're talking about a street or something, you may be able to do something there. You have some purview there, but if you're talking about the actual pond, we are gonna have to talk to them.
No, that's fine, I just don't wanna leave that email without a response.
Okay. Yep, I'll call I'll talk to the water district next week.
Okay. And yeah, I agree with Derek. If you just let him know that, because it's been a couple weeks now before, since
3
we've
weeks
given him-
Yeah.
Since we said anything, I would just let him know we're looking at it, but there's steps to follow before we can.
Mhm.
Theoretically, it's a good idea,
Mhm.
but we have to go through other people for it. So, all right. And then I noticed this was on here, and this is a correspondence from Miss Sandra Nichols. And shoot. I think I got an extra page. No. So there's 6 pages altogether.
Mhm. But I think, once again, it needs to be investigated before it's talked about.
All right, so we received your correspondence and we're gonna look into it. Because honestly, I didn't see it until it was on the table in there. And,
Yeah.
is this something she hand delivered?
No, she mailed it,
Okay, so it was mailed.
yeah, but we just got it, which I think is funny because the date that's on it, and we just got it.
Why was it?
She
Oh,
has-
May.
Yeah, but we just got it, and it actually wasn't mailed until the 16th of June.
She's probably just sitting on it or whatever, I don't know. All right, so we'll have to read that letter, and, you know. So Mrs. Nichols, we received your letter and we're gonna review it. We'll probably talk about it next meeting, so. All right, did you have anything on that? Did you get a chance to read it all?
It's a little hard for me to understand that.
Yeah, it's very small handwriting and.
You have to be
I think I need a translator.
Okay. All right, so we're good with that. So comments and concerns. Do you have any comments or concerns?
Yes, sir. I received a phone call from Mr. Demetrius, who's here. He wanted us to have them in the agenda today, but with the problems that we had and everything, so I asked him better to show up and come in the comments. So, Rich, you wanna
Well,
talk
we'll get
about?
to them.
Okay.
They'll have a chance.
Okay.
Do you have any comments and concerns?
That's it.
No. Do you, sir?
Just special town meeting, 29th, 7 PM.
And
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do the mailing.
It's in the process. Have you seen my desk?
So, why wasn't that just sent out bulk mail through the post office?
It is,
Why, yeah, but why are you putting names and addresses on everything and,
because the ones that are on my desk with names and addresses are ones that live in town but do not get their mail at our post office.
okay.
So I
Alright.
had to do it that way. So there's those, which is 244, and then I have almost 2,000 that goes out bulk mail.
Okay,
So that's
because I'm like,
what
if
it
you're gonna
will
go through and do 2,000 of those cards and do names, address, and
Nope.
stamp on every
Nope.
single one of them, you're gonna
Nope,
be
I
there
don't-
forever.
Nope, I don't have to do that.
All right,
On the ones that live in town, I don't have to.
yeah, because we got Warren and West Warren, the 2 districts.
Right,
So,
so, but, yeah, everybody
but
that lives in town.
unless you send it to West Brookfield, then none of those residents using that postal code
That's-
is gonna get it.
That's why,
That's why you're doing those.
yep.
All right,
Work in
that
progress.
explains that. All right, good. So you'll have them all done tomorrow?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Seriously?
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, they will be gone tomorrow,
All right, mailed,
mailed.
because I want everybody to be able
And
to get them.
they'll be in their boxes on Saturday. I already talked to the post offices. So
Okay.
Warren and West Warren will be in their boxes on Saturday, and the rest of them will be mailed.
Okay. All right, very good. All right. So, yes. So that's on there, next thing
Mhm.
is to talk about that too. Okay, so no more comments and concerns? Comments and concerns to the public? Oh, Joe?
Joe Conrad, President. Having had 2 years of bookkeeping, I was quite impressed with the auditor's report. It shows that the people involved are fiscally responsible and are doing their job properly. And I'm so glad to find out that the town is in the green, not in the red.
Absolutely. No, we're doing good. It was good to have them say that and see that their bond rating's gonna be going up, so that's a good thing. Better bond rating. Okay, good? Good, Joe? Mr. Sir?
If you don't mind, I'm gonna stay sitting, because my.
Yes, I seen your foot, you're good.
That's okay, thank you. First of all, we want to apologize for not attending last week. We knew this matter was on the agenda, but I had fallen and ended up back at the surgeon's office, so, but Rich did call Jim, and I think he tried getting in touch with you folks anyway. So we apologize for not being here. But we were able to go on to YouTube, thanks to Travis and his team, and catch the meeting. And I do have to say I was a little dismayed and disappointed by the board for what seemed to be a characterization of us as profiting from the town. That is in no way what we are trying to do. We are trying to help an individual to get through a maze of paperwork to help you, and when you wear your other hat, all three of you, and I know Mr. Ihawker's not here, as planning board members. There were several times when you say we're profiting from the town and we're financially benefiting. We are not doing that at all. As a matter of fact, in the last 6 months, Rich and I have put up $7,500 for veteran programs in this town. We are getting reimbursed. The big part for the wreaths was not without a hurdle. We had to meet with Jim. We did get it back. And I would challenge anybody in this room to put their own money up for what we do. So to say that we're profiting is such a mischaracterization. And by the law itself, and by town council's opinion from Jeff Blake, who I worked with for years, there is a mechanism available to allow this kind of thing for communities under 10,000 population. It's just really sad because, as you know, you don't have volunteers beating down the doors. You guys are running ragged, serving on multiple boards, and that's the problem. And that's why these laws are in place for the special municipal exemption to allow people to do stuff. It's just really sad that you know, and especially where his project has been dragged out for months and months and months due to other departments' ineptness. And when Chief Lavoie said he's going to contact the building inspector, good luck. I placed a call on June 20th, and as a taxpayer, I am not pleased. I have not heard from her yet for another matter. So that's unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable. So I would ask the board to, I understand that it's not on the agenda tonight, but to reconsider what we're trying to do. There is no financial gain for us. There's nothing. We're just trying to help him as another taxpayer in town to get his building up so he can get his business going. That's what you guys are there to do, to encourage business. And all of us, I'm still a municipal employee in another town, that's our job. We're here to help the public. And that's what we're trying to do. That's all.
Okay. My turn.
Yep. Just identify who's.
Richard
yeah.
Demetrius,
There you go.
Conservation
Thank
Commission
you.
member for over 15 years, served member since 2011, Veterans Council since, I don't know when.
2020.
You just got done talking about the problems we have with emergency management. I've worked with the shelters. I've been on it since the beginning. I've done a lot. I'm asking for an apology. You made comments that we're profiting from the town. I've lost tens of thousands of dollars due to my work on the Conservation Commission, due to the fact that I did not bid on several projects that came before the board. I could have abstained and bid on them and sold materials to the solar companies and all that stuff, but I didn't. I looked out for the town and I held my post, and I've lost more money than probably any of you in this town as a volunteer aside. And to make accusations to me that I'm profiting from the town, where do you get that?
I don't think I said you profited for the town.
No.
I said you're gonna be unbiased,
No,
and you shouldn't be,
Hold it, David.
so.
We took it verbatim and we'll put the tape back on, okay?
Okay.
Okay, it's undisputable.
Either way, I don't apologize for what I said, because that's what I feel. I don't think a town employee should be consulting on the side also.
Okay.
Because it.
Having said that,
Yeah.
okay, well, I can go through the law allows it. You guys are the ones that brought it up to us, that we should become special municipal employees. Jim called and said, the selectmen want you to become special municipal employees.
And that's great.
And that's great.
That's the way you
You
do
guys
it.
went to Jeff Blake and got an opinion from Jeff Blake. I have Jeff's
We-
opinion.
We got an opinion about the fact that if you guys can be representing
Anybody.
a private entity while you have positions with the town.
Right.
And his position was, it's not, no, you cannot do that, because it's not beneficial to the town,
Would you
basically.
like me to read what he said?
So,
I have it right
with
here.
that,
Why don't I read
you
it so everybody knows
can
what
be made
he
a
said?
special, a municipal employee, but.
What he said exactly, I have the decision right here. In my opinion, Mrs. Sarah and Mr. Demetrius are prohibited from representing the applicant under 17 under the ethics laws, unless in the case Veterans Council and Conservation Commission, and he did not mention the cert, but they would have to be named special municipal employees. Unpaid members of municipal boards are considered municipal employees. Compensation from anyone in the city or town or municipal agency in relation to any particular matter in which the same city or town is a party or has a direct substantial interest. Section 17 of the ethics laws prohibits municipal employees from acting as an agent. That's what the law says. However, 17 also exempts special municipal employees. And he goes on to say, Mrs. Sarah and Mrs. Demetrius may represent the applicant for a special permit before the planning board, as well as they are named as special municipal employees. So it's not like we're doing anything deceitful. We were just trying to help a guy, help you guys get your permit. As a planning board, you guys asked for a lot of stuff, rightfully so. Half of the stuff you guys don't even understand. That's why we're back redoing this. You guys had him listed under the wrong category on his permit. The zoning officer was confused. We had to talk to the zoning officer, but she was conflating mining and earth removal, and it's asking for an allowed use, something that can't even be denied. We were trying to put a whole package together for him. I understand permitting. I used to be a building inspector. I work in the construction industry. I get permits all the time. I've never gained any influence by being on the Conservation Commission. And as a matter of fact, this ethics law has a mechanism so that you can have undue influence. It says if that project for a year back has ever been in front of that board, you can't represent them. So it's not like we're trying to do anything deceitful or unethical. The bigger problem is, and I'm prepared to resign from all my positions, because I have to resign because I can't even go get my own earth removal permit renewed. You're not allowing me to do it because I'm not a special municipal employee. I called Attorney Duca from the state ethics last week about this. She said, yes, this is how you do it. If there's under 10,000 people in your town, this is the mechanism to do it. You're not supposed to hold two positions that you guys do.
Actually, it can.
You can do it because
I
it's
went
special.
through ethics about it, and
Just as the same that we can.
Because they're both
but it's-
elected.
But the same as we can. It's the same exact law. We talked about it. So that I called her back today. I said, yesterday, and she said, you're absolutely right. You cannot get your permit for your gravel pit because unless you're a special municipal employee. So I'm gonna have to resign all my positions because you guys won't make us a special municipal employee. On the flip side of it, what really upsets me is last year, all three of you as planning board members sent me an email to go look at basins on Beaman Road. Correct me if I'm wrong, David. Didn't you attend almost every single conservation meeting about that solar project?
probably, yeah,
Yeah. Weren't you vehemently opposed to it?
I am.
So you asked me to go look at a project for you guys that would be an ethical, it would be the same exact thing that you don't want me to do now. That's what you asked me to do. It would have been an ethics violation. I
Your
couldn't
position
act-
is conservation, though.
It's not on the conservation, it was out of jurisdiction. I asked the board back, I said, is this basin in jurisdiction? The answer came back, no, it's not in jurisdiction. And I said, then I'm not doing it. Because it wasn't in jurisdiction, it was your jurisdiction. You wanted, and the email I got back was, well, you're the expert for the town. That's the same thing that, I'm just helping this guy.
You weren't profiting from that, you weren't
I'm
getting
not
anything out of
profiting
that,
from
you're
the-
not getting anything from it, so
Profit doesn't.
you're an employee of the town.
But profit doesn't come into play. There's nothing about profit in this law. And we're not profiting for Mike's, we're helping him out for nothing. We're not making any money on this. So now, I have to leave CERT. CERT's gonna be one person down because I can't get a permit because for the pleasure of serving this town for all these years. And it's nothing illegal. Now, so I see how dead set against that you are. So anybody in town that had violated that law, I'm sure you're gonna be approved to have them step down from their positions as well, right?
Nobody's consulting anybody.
Well, Derek did. Derek, I'll read the law if you'd like me to read exactly what it calls under, but Derek, you drew a set of plans for a guy on Bemis Road. I went and looked at the job, found out
That's a
Derek
permit set.
drew the plans. You're acting as an agent, because those plans had to go before the building inspector, which you work with. It's, when you read the law, there's a perfect example in here, it talks about Conservation Commission, which is the same thing, it says an engineer or anything does anything where that person comes, so that's a violation. Derek, do you want to resign with me tonight?
Those were only drawing the plans. That's not-
No, it says any professional, it calls blueprints out exactly. You want me to read it?
Yeah, I read it too.
It says, if you prepare site plans, blueprints, structural analysis, or any other professional documents, you're not allowed to work with a developer and submit these materials to any boards. That's a violation.
But just draw what he wanted to.
Derek, I'm not saying you're a bad guy, I'm not trying to blame you, but I know what you did. I'm just trying to help him for nothing. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. We're not doing anything unethical, we're not doing anything unhanded. We're trying to help both boards, for God's sakes. I've done nothing but volunteer for this town for over 15 years. And to be mischaracterized like I'm making a profit on something, or you had no idea the arrangements Mike and I have. We've been friends for a long time. Becky grew up with him. He's grown up in Warren, he's a farmer. You know, I think you made the comment, well, if he doesn't know how to do it, then he's gonna hire a professional to do it for you. That's not the right, it's in the minutes. But that's not the way to treat people. When people come in front of the Conservation Commission, we're like, all right, how do we help you get your project done? And I go through the code and I find ways, okay, this won't work this way, but if you do this, you can do it this way. We try to work with people. It appears, you know, other people come in front of your board, if they bring an attorney with them, it seems like they get their permits in 2 or 3 days, or meetings. You know, Mike's been out for months and months and months, and that board charged him, he's already spent almost $28,000 unnecessarily for stuff that you've asked for that you had no right to ask him for even. You know, the poor guy's just trying to make a living. If you go by where he's working, it's beautiful. He's trying to beautify the town. He's a lifelong resident of the town too. He was a farmer, he grew up here. We're not trying to hurt anybody here. We're trying to just work together, and it seems like you guys have made a villain out of us.
They done? Well, thank you very much for that. Again, not on the agenda. We already voted on this issue. I was determined not to make you special municipal employees. We voted on that, and that stands.
So will you be opening up the ethics investigation under Derek, or do I have to do it? And if it
You
comes
do what you want.
So, but as a board, you're not curious?
I don't know what you're talking about. To be honest, it's first I heard about it.
Well, how about the one where one person on the Conservation Commission worked with the planning and negotiations on a legal case? That's another violation.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
And if it had anything to do with legal, that was probably done in executive session, and you're not allowed to talk about it.
You might not be allowed to talk
Because,
about it.
again, it's legal matter.
It's a legal matter, but whether it's a legal matter or not, it still falls under ethics, which is another legal matter, and one member can't represent, they're an individual if it doesn't have anything to do with their board. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I've never had an ethic violation against me one bit, and I don't want one. And when I called you, one of the things you said, I left a message saying, don't name us special municipal employees, because that's not how the law is. The law is name the position, because that's what the attorney at the ethics said.
Right.
You know,
We got Derek's email. I wasn't able to get that message in here. I tried answering it because you called, and again, I have no signal in here.
Okay, well, it's just sad that we have to resign from Veterans Council, and Becky might have to resign from Veterans Council over this, and we'll make sure we tell, everybody.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Now, did you say if I don't know what I'm doing, I should hire someone to do it? That's what I'm trying to do is help. I got all the equipment, I got all the skills to do it. You guys are making me jump through hoops and I'm going crazy trying to make sure you're satisfied.
So again, that's planning board. You need to bring that up in planning board, okay? That's not Board of Selectmen, all right? So that's an issue for the planning board to discuss. If I said you don't have these skills, or I don't remember that, but if I said it, I said it. And you should probably get somebody, if you don't have that level, to get somebody to consult with.
I'm trying.
I know, but they're town employees. It's not in the benefit of the community, the town, to have them represent you, because it seems unbiased.
Okay, so that's fine, but then when I asked all the building inspector and everybody, everything you need, I jumped to it, everything you guys want, then it ain't enough. Then you redo it all, and it still ain't enough. It's almost like you guys don't want me here, and that's the part of getting out of town. Now, I'm trying to bring tax money, revenue, jobs and everything to this town, which I thought that's what you wanted. I'm gonna have 3 generations up here. My grandkids are working for me. They're all planning on staying. I'm trying to set my kids and my grandkids up, but when I step back, they're good. And it seems like it's a fight in this
So
town.
you gotta separate this board from the planning board, okay?
It's all the same people.
2 different boards,
But
okay? I understand their concerns because they had a matter come in front of us and we voted it down. Yes, I understand that. But what you're bringing up is a planning board issue, and that should be brought up to the planning board on
I
that.
don't want these two to sacrifice anything on my account, so, all right, they're not helping me no more.
You're all adults, you can make your own decisions and stuff, as far as.
But I'm not trying to make anyone's life hard, I just want to grow my village.
And again, we'd hate to lose them in those positions because they do awesome, with what they do, and the Veterans, Council, we can't replace them, okay? They do amazing work with Veterans Council, and we appreciate them, and we have a lot of respect for them.
In the same aspect, I don't want the town to lose, so that's why.
Well, the town's gonna lose me because I can't get my own permit. I can't even take my own permit. And please explain to me how I'm being biased.
It can be perceived as you being biased.
Could it be perceived being biased by you being anti-solar, asking me to, as a private individual, to look at storm basins for planning board?
Your Conservation Commission.
You didn't ask me as a conservation commissioner.
Sure
It was
we
out.
did.
No, you did not. I asked you. I said, is it out of jurisdiction? And you said yes. And I said, I can't do it. And you should have known it wasn't in conservation
be
because
honest, Rich,
it was in your jurisdiction.
To
And
be
so how
honest,
does
how many
that-
years ago was this?
Last year. I got the emails. I'll bring them in.
That's fine. Bring it up with the planning board, because
Well,
that's
I'm
where
just
that
bringing, you're saying that
belongs.
I'm being perceived as being biased. When when I bring up things that actually happened, suddenly it's all that you were in conservation. It had nothing to do with conservation and you knew it.
It does have conservation.
No, it does not.
Sure it does.
How does it have anything to do with conservation if it's out of jurisdiction?
Because it's basins.
They're out of jurisdiction, basins of stormwater. Stormwater falls under planning board, not conservation.
You never had a issue with helping anybody, and you never expressed that you didn't want to do
Anything that
it.
was in jurisdiction. On Beaman Road, there was 2 in jurisdiction that we dealt with and the rest were out. We didn't even deal with them. You guys dealt with them.
Okay. So if you have concerns with that, you can bring it up with planning board and say no.
I did say no.
Okay.
But do you see how that's perceived? You were anti-solar. You want me to go and look at all these things.
I'm very anti-solar. I
But
don't
yet-
like solar.
But yet you're making me sound like I'm being biased. You're telling everybody on TV I'm being biased by my position because I'm helping a guy. How's it being biased helping a guy get through the process? What's biased about that?
So we beat this around the bush. You just want to argue about the point. We made a decision on it. So that's the decision. If you have anything else, we'd love to hear from it. But if you're going to keep on repeating the same thing over and over and over, we'll just move on. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
I think they can still, as residents, can help get the permit, just not represent them legally.
You know?
Well,
That's up to them.
it doesn't fix me for getting my own permit.
That's another issue that it concerns me, because that's not fair.
It's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. And there's a process so that it can be fixed, and you guys want to ignore it. You say I'm being biased.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's
Well,
accurate.
call-
I think you would be able to get.
No, you
get
can't.
No, you,
your-
listen, Jim.
His
call-
company's a corporation.
My company's a corporation. Do you understand how a
Yeah, but
corporation works?
you're the owner of the
Hey,
corporation.
there's no owners of any corporation. You're a representative of your corporation. Nobody owns it. I don't own a corporation. I own shares in a corporation, but a corporation is a separate entity.
So I think the only time that would be an issue for you, okay, is
It's my
if
gravel
any of
bank.
if any of those permits or any of that came up in front of your board, you would have to recuse.
No, I called Ms. Duca. I just got off the phone with her today. She goes, unfortunately, you're correct. You cannot represent, I have to go to the planning board for my earth removal permit to renew it. I cannot go to it's the same thing as I'm doing for Mike. I cannot represent my corporation.
Now, if we can just get clarification.
I mean,
on that,
I don't,
because
I don't know how the question was posed to.
Here's how I posed it, this is how I posed the question. I said, we just got done discussing the special municipal thing, because we talked to her. I said, another issue has come up. I understand I cannot help Mike or anybody else on anything under planning board or anything else unless I'm a special municipal employee. I have to renew my earth removal permit. It's in the corporate name. She says, unfortunately, you cannot do it. You are correct, because you are acting as an agent of the corporation. The corporation's its own entity. It's its own individual. I don't own it. I own the shares of it. I'm a president, but I don't own it. I work for it. If my truck is in a corporate name, if that corporation goes bankrupt, they take my truck away from me. They don't take away my house, because that's my personal house. They don't take my personal car, because that's my personal car. But anything in the corporation, it goes. It's a separate entity. Call Louis, Jim, you know, call her tomorrow. You can, she talked to me this afternoon.
Lauren Duca?
Lauren Duca, she called me this afternoon.
Yeah, we can get clarification on that.
So if that happens, then what?
It's a new issue. You're gonna have to deal with the issue.
I have to resign.
That's up to you.
It's either resign or not. So my
don't make a living.
choice is stop volunteering or don't make a living.
Can't Richard Demetrius hire somebody else and represent them?
But why should I have to hire somebody for the privilege of volunteering? Why should I have to spend $3,000 and hire a lawyer to get a permit from me because I want to help the town in other areas?
So we're gonna get clarification on that and figure out that situation, because I don't know if that's entirely true.
Okay?
So we'll get clarification on that.
Well, I need one immediately because I want to submit an application, and I can't.
Right.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Well, what's that? So how's that leave us now?
Leaves you where you left when you came in. You're in the
So
same
do I-
situation.
Do I resign tonight, or?
Again, Rich, that's all up to you, what you wanna do.
Well, if you're gonna look into it, what does that mean? Are you
We
gonna look
said we were
into
gonna
it?
look into if that is actually true.
And if it is true, what course would be the next course of action?
Again, we'd have to look into how we can resolve that, what the solution would be. Or, you'd have to resign.
Well, the solution is here. The attorney, the town's attorney said that's the solution. And so did the State Board of Ethics said that's the solution. It's not a dark secret. It's an allowed use in small towns, so people can volunteer. That's why it's set up.
And we voted on that last week, and we said no.
So now you said you're gonna look into it, so.
Well, we're gonna look into that matter.
So does that mean you're gonna reopen anything, or, I mean, I don't wanna resign if you're gonna,
Bottom line is they don't want you to help me. So either I just gotta hire a lawyer and do it that way.
Because of one individual,
And I don't
and we know
understand
who
why.
she is.
I really don't. I like this town and I wanna come here, but it seems like that's the only way to go. It don't make sense, but another board, I understand that. So, but you're gonna tell me the same thing.
Different issue from another
You're gonna
board.
tell me the same thing next week, so just,
so I guess I don't know how I'm supposed to take this. You said you're gonna look into a work on it.
We're
There's
gonna
this-
look into that, and we'll
On the
see
next agenda?
what they say on that. And we could add it to the next agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Before the special town meeting, so with Attorney Blake.
No, it's gonna be after, because our next meeting is after the special. All right? Anything else?
Yep, on another note.
All right.
On another note.
I gotta go before I get mad. Thanks for the steak, Mike. Thank
I'll
you.
have him bring these up. These are just the flyers that we're sending out for next week's concert for veterans. So we'd like to invite you all there, and we hope you come. We did this last year in conjunction with Park and Rec. We provided free hot dogs, chips, and soda. So we hope that you guys can make it.
Well, thank you
Karen,
very much.
If you can make a copy for Rich I. Hawker.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to put, Becky, you want me to put it up on the website too?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other comments or concerns? No? Anybody from Zoom, comments and concerns? No? Going. There we go. All right. An announcement, the special town meeting is on June 29th, 2023. That is at 7 PM at the Quabog Regional Middle High School in the auditorium. And this will be one article item on the school budget. And I hope to see everybody there for the special. Again, this is for the school budget, and it is on June 29th, 2023 at 7 PM at Quabog Regional Middle High School auditorium. Okay? Do a motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
Derek Bailey's aye.
David Dufresne, aye. The motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.